In the administrative state, Waldo argued that the public administration should be mainly guided by efficiency. He warned that this was not a neutral value but a political one. This is also why he critiqued the politics-administration dichotomy, because he believed that neutrality was impossible. And this brings up efficiency versus democracy. Efficiency for whom? Democracy from whom? Can policies be neutral for all? They cannot, because policies and administrative systems are not experienced equally. Race, gender, class, sexuality, disability, and citizenship status intersect to create different outcomes for people under the same neutral policy. And that is why Waldo warned that neutrality was an illusion. The way I was able to expand on Waldo's theory was by thinking about how intersectionality and equity frameworks happen in public administration. Waldo focused on abstract values of administration, and intersectionality takes those values and connects them to real-life inequalities, using administrations to focus on equity and people's actual experiences. And the hope would be that administrations can shift from just focusing on optics of efficiency to also engaging in change to help remove systematic barriers. But I believe the first step is to acknowledge that no, unfortunately, there is not a way to remain neutral, because regardless of what people's politics are, what they believe in, what the current administration stands for, what the last one stood for, the policies that get passed affect everyday people. And it just doesn't matter, regardless, there's always going to be someone who is impacted by it. Sometimes it's going to be good and that's great. And unfortunately, other times it's going to be bad and that really sucks. But the good thing is, the administration changes quite often. So yeah, we wouldn't always be stuck in a state of whatever we're experiencing from the administration. So this was honestly my favorite article this week. McGregor discussing Theory X and Y was awesome. He was ahead of his time, being that back in the 1960s, organizations mainly ran on Theory X. And the best thing I could tie to this theory was remote work. People that work for the state of California recently back in the summertime were being mandated to return to office. Huge pushback. Everyone was upset. And I think that shows the tension between traditional X way of doing things versus like now the adoption of theory Y, you know? And I think it's so crazy how we really wouldn't be here at all in this position and or even having these arguments without COVID, without the pandemic. Remote work's always been a thing, but at the level it is now, definitely I don't think it would be as significant without those factors. And I also think it's a reflection of broader debates in public administration about how to balance efficiency, accountability, and employee well-being in an evolving world. It's going to always change. It's not going to always be the same. And I think that's kind of important for governments or agencies that are, more strict or rigid because, the world is evolving constantly. Charles Lindblom was famous for incrementalism, the idea of instead of making crazy big changes, policymakers take small incremental steps. The goal is practical improvement, not perfection. And a great way that I tied current practices to his theory was homelessness in California. I've seen Newsom roll out various programs in different cities and counties, doing trial runs versus a statewide mandate for these homeless programs, testing it out, seeing what works, what doesn't. But yeah, I think the idea of this is currently applicable today because agencies and organizations operate in complex, unpredictable environments, and we have access to technology and data analysis that make incrementalism more practical than ever. And the only thing I would say is there is definitely a time and place for this. During COVID, when it first happened in 2020, the vaccines needed to be spread rapidly. So that was definitely not the time or the place for incrementalism.